Joining us in studio to share his perspective is the Vice Chairperson of the Foreign Affairs Committee of Parliament and MP for Jirapa, Cletus Dapila. Many thanks for joining us.
Thank you, my sister. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Good.
All right, so the President's address has received commendation from some Guineans. Would you say that it was all-encompassing, touching on or factually reflecting Africa's position on the current world global affairs?
Well, thank you so much. Let me say good evening once again, and good evening to your distinguished viewers. I will use this platform to commend the President John Dramani Mahama, for demonstrating courage, for demonstrating, boldness, capacity, knowledge, experience at the UN General Assembly, the 80th section. You see, the President, let me start still by applauding the President for the African that he demonstrated. You see, he dressed as like an African. He portrayed our culture by wearing a smock to demonstrate that this is where he comes from. This is an African. This is a leader coming from Africa. It's just not every Ghanaian needs to laud the President and praise him for what he did at the UN General Assembly. He didn't speak politics. He didn't discredit any political party in Ghana. He stated the realities. He was very clear in his mind what the future of Africa should be, right, and the need for the world to recognize Africa and to know that Africa has contributed immensely to the development of the so-called super powerful nations.
Right.
And for me, if you also listen to the President, you realize that the President honestly did not also miss his words. In the face of speaking truth to power.
About that speaking truth to power, let's talk about him asking about Africa having a seat on the Security Council, but also calling for a review of the veto system where the General Assembly could challenge its use. How do you reconcile Africa's push for representation on the Security Council with the possibility of limited veto powers?
Yes, my sister, if we look at it, Africa has contributed immensely to the world. In terms of natural resources, Africa has youthful population. We look at the natural resources that we possess in terms of mineral resources, gold, bauxite, and others. And go to these super powerful nations, they don't even have these resources. All of these resources, they took it from Africa, and that is how they develop. So if you want us to be part of this international body, and you deny us of a seat, so we have no say except to come and you give us opportunity to deliver speeches at the site. It's not the best. You see, we need to be part and integral. We need to be integral part of decisions making at the UN Assembly, right, because we contribute so much to the development of these powerful nations. Now, if you look at the membership of the UN, around 193 nations. 193 nations. Africa is like, we have some 54 to some 57 nations. Now, when it comes to voting, there is no way, because the charter tells us that you must have some two-thirds of the votes in order to secure a seat. And that is practically impossible for Africa. So President Mahama is saying that we need to review the charter, right, to include Africa, at least a seat, so that we can also have a bite when it comes to taking decisions. He's not talking of Ghana, he said Africa. Look at the continent, very vast. We are many population, we contribute a lot to the world GDP and all of that. So at least they should review the charter so that we can be part of it. Otherwise, if it comes to elections voting, we'll never win. We'll never win. So
Right.
President is telling the world that, look, we've gone far. If you form an organization in 1945 and the world has evolved, it should tell you that at least you should open up, amend your charter, and so that at least some other nations or continents can be part of it.
Migration was another key issue
Yes.
in the president's speech, and he criticized the tendency of other nations to portray migration as a bad thing. But what do you make of the argument that host nations still have a right to regulate how people migrate to their countries?
Well, migration. Nobody will want to migrate to any country. If African nations are better off, there won't be the need for anybody to sojourn to any, European country or the America for greener pastures. Nobody will want to do that. So that is why President Mahama is saying that, and other voices of conscience is calling on the world superpowers that, look, it's about time for you to consider Africa, because you took a lot from this continent to develop yourself in the past. The resources that were taken from Africa during the slave trade, if those resources were with us today, we would have developed ourselves. There would not have been any need for, migration or people running to other countries seeking for visas all the time to seek for greener pastures in other countries. But because they took so much from us, so if you took so much from us, not that we willingly give, they forcefully took it. Even our human resource were taken.
So you believe the conversation on reparations is
very
right?
key. Reparation, very, very important, because if you are talking of human rights abuses and you, in one breath, you are condemning it, and yet you did it against a whole continent, there is a need for you to at least give some reparation.
Right.
So it's a call in the right direction. And I think that many other voices in Africa should talk to it so that the world superpowers will see the need to actually give some compensation by way of reparation to African continent. At least all those countries that suffered, at least Africa suffered some 12.5 million to 13 million people, human beings, were taken away forcefully, not that they wanted to go.
Okay.
Even the manner in which they were treated, malhandled, handcuffs with chains and all of that, transported through the sea to go and work.
That's right.
To improve those the Western world today, those Western countries. I think it's unfair.
Right.
So if we call for repatriation, it's in the right direction.
The president also spoke or took a firm position on global issues such as Gaza and Cuba.
Sure.
What do you say to critics who argue that such positions can have consequences for Ghana?
Well, you see, I know, even though Ghana, we are non-aligned from the Kwame Nkrumah days, but you see, sometimes when you see the obvious, you must take it, you must say it. You see, the truth of the matter is that the super powerful nations, let's say the 5 most powerful ones, in one breath, they will be calling for peace and crime against humanity in other nations. But when it is in their interest, they go and support one nation to perpetuate crime against the other, and yet nobody should talk. You understand? So President Mahama and other voices of conscience is calling on them that, look, let there be peace in Gaza.
Right.
Look at what is happening. People, you just target, hospitals, churches, women, children, and bomb them. To what extent? What do you want to gain? So if you are calling for peace, if you think that, crime against humanity should be stopped, this is where it should begin from. Don't eschew your interests.
Right.
You understand? The well-powered bodies or those countries, they should at least eschew their interests and then support so that there can be peace in the world. So you can't not be asking for, other countries to be punished, or other presidents in other countries to be punished on crime against human rights abuses, and yet you are supporting another country to at least, commit the same crimes. So it is fair for the president to state it clearly. And I know other countries, if you look at the summit, the UN, the assembly session ongoing, when you were speaking, many people applauded to it. And they applauded you and said, this is what we want to hear.
Right.
Another Kwame Nkrumah has emerged.
Right.
So at least everybody applauded the president.
Right.
So it is not all the time that we will have to stay non-aligned. There are times that we must speak to the obvious. Russia-Ukraine war, when it came, though Ghana's position is always non-aligned, but the then president spoke to it. And he spoke in a way that everybody saw the direction he was going.
Okay.
So it's in the same vein, President Mahama is at least adding his voice to the voice of conscience to tell the world that, look, let's stop this human rights abuses that
Honorable
you
Dapila,
are against.
Honorable Dapila, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you
It's a
so
pleasure
much.
speaking to you.
Pleasure to speak to you too.
All right.
Good.